Hello friends, my name is Deepak and with me is my good friend Sanjeev Gupta CPA. And today we want to talk to you guys about a new act that is going to change how LLCs and corporations operate. They can no longer hide in bushes. And if you don't follow that law, then you can have a lot of penalties as well. So first of all, let me start out by giving a brief overview of what this Corporate Transparency Act is that everybody is talking about. So what was happening is before, if you have a corporation, if you have an LLC, that LLC can be owned by somebody else, and that LLC can be owned by somebody else, and the actual owner can some or more or less can actually hide. In matter of fact, some states don't even list out the members of LLC. So there was this issue going on where people were using it for not legal business practices. They were using it for funding terrorism, funding a lot of illegal activities, and so forth. And that's why this new law is there to actually stop that from happening. Sanjeevji, anything to add there?
See, when we talk about Corporate Transparency Act, it was passed in 2021. It's not new. And the only thing is the implementation is done from January 1st, 2024. Uh, the thing with, like you rightly said, there were a lot of shell companies being created, and the real beneficiaries and real owners were behind like they were hiding. So that's why the IRS, the federal government, they want to know who is there, who is behind all those things, who is running, so they have a control as to the real ownership. So it's not a this is not a every year filing requirements. Uh, so it's of course it will change the manner in which we report. Because remember, it gets reported on a FinCEN form, FinCEN website, and FinCEN website is a also, if you recall, we do the F bar filings and everything, FinCEN 114 form. So this is in addition to that.
Okay, so first of all, the Corporate Transparency Act applies to who? Just LLCs, sole proprietorships, C corps, S corp. Who needs to file this report? Let's start with the basics.
Yeah, so we have beneficiary ownership report. Again, the CTA report, we'll call it. Is mainly for corporations, LLCs, nothing for partnership, nothing for sole proprietor. Like I said, the background is that they want to know the person behind the companies, who is running that company. So if you're a S corporation, if you're a C corporation, if you're a single member LLC, if you're a multi-member LLC, this report applies to you.
Okay, so that clarifies a lot, right? So that means if you are a sole proprietor right now working out of your garage, maybe you have a small business, maybe you just have a regular partnership, or maybe you have a small business with your husband and wife, that's not a requirement for you. But if you are operating an LLC, even if that LLC only hold assets, that is a requirement,
Yes. The LLC can do anything. It's a requirement for the sole proprietor and the partnership. You remember when you're a sole proprietor, you use your society number. So that's why they can track it. Or if you use a EIN number, the society number is linked to the EIN number. So there's no need for tracking this kind of businesses. But in case of corporation, it's different matter.
All right. So let's moving on. Now, Sanjeevji, let's say if somebody's setting up a new LLC right now, right? Let's say they come to us today and they say, look, we want to set up an LLC today. What do we need to do? Do they need to report something, or do they need to wait? What's the process today? If somebody's setting up a new LLC today?
Yes. So if it's somebody setting up new LLC, or in fact a new S corporation or C corporation, and they have to file this report within 90 days from the date of being registered at the website of the Secretary of State of the. So if you register with the Secretary of State, you have to file this report within 90 days of this. So all the LLC, like I said, the LLC is a part S corp, C corp has the requirements.
So like Sanjeevji says, business owners must report within the 90 days. Now, let's just say you set up a new corporation, new LLC, and you got some partners in there. And let's say middle of the year, you have a change in ownership. Maybe one of the partners left, maybe you sold an asset to somebody else. That would also trigger requirement for you to report. Am I correct, Sanjeevji?
Yes, any modification, any changes to initial reporting uh, needs to be needs to be reported as amended on the filings. Needs to be any change in whether it's address or directors or partners or members or so it needs to be reported.
And I stress that because I think a lot of people will remember to report it when they originally set the company up. But I think a lot of people are going to forget that when they have a change, they also need to report it. And that requirement is not the next year, not at the end of the year. That's within the next 90 days. So whenever the change happened, you got the 90-day window to report those changes.
Yeah,
Now,
within
if you don't do that, then there are severe penalties. So
of
Sanjeev, talk a little bit about those penalties.
penalties are. So remember, we have to understand also the whenever we talk about FinCEN reporting, uh, the penalties will be very high. The reason for that is it's not a tax. You're not paying tax because of non-reporting. Yeah, there's no tax for there's no income to be reported for to compute the tax. It's more about compliance. And when it comes to compliance, the penalty is always very high. It's $500 per day, up to 10,000 can be levied for every day till the date of filing the BI report.
And let's just say even worse, they can actually send you to jail up to 2 years.
Criminal penalty,
So
criminal penalties also apply. Again, same thing with the FinCEN forms. FBAR also has civil penalties and criminal penalties. Same rules applies.
now, so sometimes, and I think this happens to us even with FBAR. Sometimes clients come to us and they say, well, how they're going to know about it, whatnot. I think in this, that's not even a question, because obviously it's very simple. They will either you file the report or not file the report because you have an LLC, so that problem is not there. But we have another issue here. We have intentionally not filing the report and unintentionally not filing the report. So Sanjeev just talked about that if you unintentionally, maybe you did not watch our video or millions of other videos that are out there on this subject matter, or maybe you did not get a notice. I don't know. I didn't really get a notice. I own some companies here. Sanjeev, did you get a notice from IRS about this, that hey, we are implementing this?
Iris will not give you this information, the domain. So yes, it's fine. You have to be knowledgeable. You need to research, right? So everybody, you see, my fear in this area is a lot of CPAs are not aware themselves.
Yes.
They're not keeping up to date with all the information. Will not be in a position to advise their clients to file this report. And think about this: uh, if you don't file within 90 days, and they incorporate a business, but neither the client knows, neither the CPA knows, who will pay the penalties? The
You
penalties
will.
humongous.
Yep.
Uh, so you will pay the penalties, and not only the new ones, the older ones, the LLCs, S corp, C corp, which are in existence as on January 1st, 2024, they have a time up to December 31st, 2024, to report it. But that's all. So a lot of time. So my fear is because a lot of people file left and right LLCs online. They also file S corp online. Unless they know this rule is a compulsory, mandatory, it will be a problem. We see a lot of problem in this. Maybe IRS will come out more. It will give some years or something more flexible approach right now.
I think my understanding on that is that IRS is going to collect the data this year, and then they're going to go back to their drawing board, and maybe people who don't file the report this year, maybe they will send out notices that, hey, you forgot to do this, take care of this. I'm sure they will come up with something. But like Sanjeevji said, don't depend on IRS to be
No,
kind to you.
never, because again, ignorance is not an excuse in this country. So you cannot just plead ignorance just because you don't know. You should know. That's what is thought about
All
here.
right. Let me go back to that non-compliance with the intent. So, for example, if you know about this and you still do not file the report, now the penalty goes up by another year. That means you can have up to 3 years in jail and $10,000 fine. Or for that matter, let's say you actually file the report and you actually put down wrong information, misleading information, then that file could be up to $250,000 for individuals and $500,000 for organizations, plus imprisonment. So you can just imagine how
Yeah.
serious the government is this time, uh, that people make sure they file it. Now, Sanjeevji, you know what I'm really worried about? Obviously, our clients, they're well taken care of. We do plenty of webinars. We have, by the way, those of you guys don't know, we have a seminar coming up in Milpitas, I think, right? That's
That's
correct, Sanjeevji. Milpitas, we have a live seminar where I will be there, Sanjeevji will be there in the month of February, so you can register for that on sanjeevcpa.com. We have live seminars coming up in Texas, in Houston, Austin, Dallas. So those are going to be available hopefully in February, if not by March. You can go to taxcodeadvisors.com, register if you're in those states. So we do a lot of events to bring that information to you. But what I'm really worried about is all the people who are overseas, people who are running their companies from India, for example, or somewhere else, because they're not paying attention to that. We are not able to communicate with them on a regular basis. They come to us at the end of the year and go like, here, this is what we have done. Now, the trick is, if you filed your LLC last year, then you have till the end of the year to file this report. Okay. But what I'm afraid of is those people not going to come back to us till January or February of
that,
next year.
that's the real trouble. That's the real trouble. Yeah. Past the deadlines. That's why maybe some flexibility might be offered for this transition period, maybe 1 year, 2 year. We don't know. But yeah, that's my worry.
Right. And like I said, and Sanjeevji mentioned it earlier, $500 a day penalty for not reporting it.
10,000. So starting is 500.
Maximum 10,000. Yeah. So there's a upper limit, but it's a steep penalty. You'll be surprised. And maybe then they will come up with some sort of amnesty program again, because they typically do. But that's a whole different story. So penalties are huge. Now, Sanjeevji, if you can touch a little bit, when we say beneficial owner, that's the word, right? Beneficial owner. How do you define that? Who is a beneficial owner?
It's a it's a very vague term they used. They did not define it very specifically. So as per the general understanding of the regulation, beneficial owner can be any person either who controls, supervises the operations, or who has ownership in the equity of the company, substantial equity, more than 25% or more. So now when it comes to control can be accessed by the board, of directors, can be accessed by the president, the CFO, the secretary. So who should be listed on that beneficial owners? Because that's the report that requires you to detail out the names and everything, the names,
Absolutely.
have a license, and where they're residing. So if you are, if there is a CEO of the company, definitely he's the main beneficial ownership report. His name should be included in that one. If it's exercised over the different officers, then all those people should also be added as a beneficial ownership report. So, and if you don't have a control, but you still own the business, for example, you are owning more than 25% of the stock of the company, but you're not involved into operations. You hire a CEO, a CFO, and all those things. You will also be a beneficial owner on that report.
So this is a very critical question, and I purposely asked this to clarify this point. Now, imagine you own a small business. Maybe you have an LLC, right? And let's just say, you are the one who is running the company, but your wife owns 25%. She needs to be on that report.
Right.
Or maybe you are a 20% owner, or even 100% owner, but your wife actually runs the company. She needs to be on the report. So, and there are a lot of like gray area, like Sanjeevji said, like you really need to make sure that you talk to your tax professional, your attorney, whoever you trust in regards to this, and make sure you got everybody on that report. Because if you don't, remember that penalty, $500 a day, up to $10,000.
Yes, remember, And when it comes to LLCs or S corporation, remember the way to track them is to look at their tax returns. And in that tax return, we highlight in case of S corporation, we highlight the shareholders and the percentage of ownership. In case of LLCs, we have again the partners information on each K1s. So that's the way they can track it and say who is owning what and who is controlling what. And then on the return, this signature of the person who's filing, who's preparing it, or is filing it, or managing the accounts and everything. So that person also becomes a beneficial owner too.
So let me just further clarify this point. So let's assume that you have your neighbor file this report for you because he's a good friend, you trust him. You say, hey, can you please go ahead and file it? Guess what? His information needs to go on that report as well.
Yes.
So it's like they're serious about this stuff.
Yeah, so that's the company applicant coming to picture. So beneficial ownership report is for the beneficiaries who are controlling or owning, and company applicant is the person can be the person who's incorporated a business. So that can be the person applying for it.
Now, this report doesn't require a lot of information, not too much personal information, but let me just give you some of the things then they want to know. They want to know your legal name. They want to know your date of birth. They want to know your current residential address or your business address. They want an image of your ID, such as your passport, driving license, or any other ID that you have. And they want it for every single beneficial owner. So I was joking that they don't want too much information. They really want to know who you are and where you are. So they want to make sure. But that brings me to another question, Sanjeev. Do you see this issue as an invasion of privacy that now government is asking too much information?
No, because the reason for that is they are not putting on the individual basis; they are putting on the corporation basis. So and and just it's just like you said, it's just an information. There's nothing relevant to anything else. It's not like if a person is an owner or he's running the business, and he just gives a bare information about his social security number, his driver license number, his copy of your driver license or passport. There's nothing there. It's just more information.
And those of you guys who are still concerned about that, if you're a legit company, the government already has that,
Yeah.
right? Maybe now there's a little bit more compliance. They want to make sure that everybody's accounted for, but they already have this information. It really, yes, it is an invasion of privacy for people who are trying to do illegal acts. That for them, yes, government will be able to figure that out. You cannot just hide it under the bushes anymore.
If you're a large business, then you're exempted from that because they already have those information from that.
Correct. Now, Sanjeev ji, so I already gave one example of, I think, where we're going to see a lot of issues, which is people who are in a different country because maybe the information won't reach out to them um, in a timely fashion. But I'll tell you, there is another group of people I'm concerned about. Okay, and I think we hear about these people not not every year, but this situation happens every few years. This is the guy who set up an LLC, but then doesn't do anything with it,
Mm.
and he thinks he doesn't have to do anything with it because he didn't make any revenue on it.
Yes.
It's just a dormant LLC. So talk a little bit about that. What happened to those people?
Yes. So, in case of dormant or inactive LLCs, people have formed LLC left and right. That's what I keep saying. Uh, they don't even know whether keep forgetting. Also, they have an LLC. When they receive a notice from the state board, then they realize, oh,
Then they realize, oh, I got one.
we have got one. So in that case, of course, if it's a dormant LLC, you have to first find out whether it's in active status or not with the Secretary of State. So if it's not inactive or suspended mode, you have to make it active. You have to file certain forms to revive that corporation LLCs. And once that's one part. The second part is even if it's a dormant, you have to file this beneficiary ownership report. Uh, is because again, it's not about whether you're running the business, not running business, you're doing any income or you're generating any income or having expenses. It's irrespective of that. It's just the basic information about with the owners of the businesses and the company applicant. So, in case of those, dormant or whether it's inactive or active, you have to file that report.
Now, another thing I want to add to that, Sanjeevji, is those of you guys who have these kind of entities, dormant entities, and you're not planning on using them, you're not planning on doing them anything, let's shut them down. It's unnecessary headache.
So
Why keep them on?
yeah, if you want to shut down as on December 31st, you can do it. But if you're shutting down, if you're shutting down now, you still have time after April 15. Then if you're shutting down, then it's going to be a problem.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. And if you're in doubt, definitely come to us. Let's see, what's the nominees? Can nominee be used to maintain privacy under the Corporate Transparency Act? So
Yes.
can we use somebody else's name?
Nominee is different. Somebody else name, no, because that will not correspond with your document, the driver license, the everything. So it will be I don't think you can use any other person name on the return.
Okay, and that's the whole purpose of the act to begin with, right? They want to bring that compliance, that transparency.
Right.
Now, what about, foreign entities? What about, let's say an Indian company who has set up an LLC or a S corp or C corp here. What about them?
Same thing, same rule applies for everybody, foreign, non-foreign, domestic, and they still have to file those returns.
Right. So if you have a foreign company, that means you're a resident of a different country, maybe in Canada, Mexico, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, wherever you are, and you have a company here in the United States, you still got to file this additional reporting. And I'm saying this because we have some clients who are there, and we want to make sure they are in compliance because once again, we want to avoid those penalties as well there. Now, talking about that, not everybody has to file this report. So
Right.
there are a lot of companies who are excluded from filing, such as, banks, exempt non-profit organizations like churches, temples, but there are specific requirements. So
Right.
just because you're an exempt doesn't mean that you don't have to file it. And I don't want to make this a 5-hour video going over every single
Yeah.
exemption, but if
Yeah.
I'm
There's a huge humongous act. It's a big act. A lot of things are there.
Yeah, and I think there are like about 23 or 24 exemptions the last time I checked it. I don't know if they changed it since then, but there are plenty of exemptions for people. So if you're not sure, go to your tax professional and ask them, and they can verify for you, or go to your attorney, whoever you go to get your taxes done.
Yeah, generally, it's if you're a small business, or then you, and if it's LLC or S corp or C corp, definitely you have a requirement to file.
Yeah, so I think companies with more than 20 full-time employees in the US and gross receipts of over $5 million, I think that's a good threshold for those of, at least big businesses are exempt. And that's because they're already filing this kind of report in other
Yes.
fashion. So it's
Yes.
not like government is saying, oh, you make a lot of money, it's okay. That's not the point.
Indeed.
But there are other exemptions as well. But I think this exempt one I wanted to bring out as well because a lot of time people think, oh, I'm exempt, I don't have to do it. Yes, there is an exemption, but maybe you still have to file it. Just verify that with your CPA. I think there, like I said, I think about 23, 24 different kind of exemptions out there that are available. Another one, and I don't really see so much in our Indian community as much, but I do hear about this from our other clients. These are the people who are heavy investors into real estate. So what they do is they go out there and set up all, and I could take that back. I shouldn't say that. I don't hear that about the Indian. Even in Indian investors, I hear that. What they would do is they will go set up an LLC in Wyoming. Then they will have a foreign LLC in California, or they will say, "Oh, I'm going to do one in Nevada," because somebody told them so. Um, all of these people, and how? Why did they do that? Because somebody told them, "Oh, because it brings you privacy, because you can hide your information." Well, guess what? You're no longer hidden. You have to give this information to the government. And on the other note, by the way, this information that you're giving to the government, once again, it's not going to some public website where the government is going to list that out. Unless Sanjeevji, you have any other information. Is it possible for somebody to access that information? Right? It's direct. It's kind of like filing your tax return. It goes to IRS. If you want to share it with somebody,
And
there are
public
there,
document, public document. No?
right? There are rules to deal with that. So I think we covered this subject in great detail. My last question is, so people who already have an LLC, they have till the end of the year to file this report. People who are setting up an LLC right now, this year, so if you come to us or maybe you did it online or somebody else did it, you have 90 days to file this report. If you have an ownership change, you sold an interest, you bought an interest, again, you have 90-day window to make that change. Who can file this report? Who should be filing this report?
Yes. So again, the like I said, the company applicant will be the person who is managing the affairs of the company. Uh, Accountants or CPAs, they are generally not required. There's certain issues with respect to the accountants and CPAs filing their this report on their behalf of the clients, because does not the insurance will not malpractice and other things will not be like they've said there's not will cover malpractice insurance. So it's better for the owners to file this report by themselves by going to the website and doing it. Now, if they need information, they can definitely ask their accountants to do it.
Yeah, so we can provide consulting, we can help you out, we can support you, but again, we don't know who you're selling the interest to or who you're buying the interest to from, who are your partners. Maybe you have, and like Sanjeevji made it very, very clear. You know, when we say beneficial owner, that's the key word. It doesn't mean they necessarily have an equity in the company. That's why they did not really say owners of the company. They said beneficiary ownership. Imagine, let's say you have a company and it was funded by your dad in India. He funded it and it's under your name, but you send some profit from your pocket to your dad. Guess what? He's a beneficiary owner of that company, and now he needs to be included on that report. So I would, if you're in doubt in any of that matters, because if you're not 100% clear on this subject matter at this point, I strongly recommend that you set up an consultation appointment and just kind of run it by to make sure that you're not missing out on something. Once again, because penalties are huge.
Yeah,
Consultation appointment is cheap.
yeah, yeah.
you know Having that said, once again, I want to remind everyone that we have a live seminar coming up in February, so please come there. I will be there, Sanjeev will be there, and will definitely, this subject matter will be there, but there will be other subject matter. We have an increase in payroll taxes, we'll be talking about that. We have a lot of tax saving strategies for this year. How do you plan for that? We're going to talk about that. If you are ready to file your taxes for last year, what are some of the things that you should be paying attention to that can help you? We're going to talk about that. People who are planning on buying or selling real estate, we're going to talk about that. You're sending money to India. A lot of people are buying stocks and real estate and other assets in India because they believe in country, they believe in Modi ji, and they believe that the country is on trajectory to hit the new heights. Hey, I love you guys. I don't blame it. I'm with you. And God bless India. And I hope it continues to grow the way it is growing. I'm with you. But I want you to do it in a safe manner. I want you to learn, to avoid mistakes and get the most out of it. So please come to the live seminar. I request you can register on sanjeevcpa.com. Those of you guys who are watching it in Texas, if you want to go to taxcodeadvisors.com, you can register there. We have a couple of live seminars coming there as well. And at the end of the year, obviously, we will have Wealth Summit again. Too early to talk about it, but we'll get you more information as we finalize the plans on that. So Sanjeev ji, thank you for joining me today. I think we covered everything about this act. Not everything, but at least in summary, I think we got the most important points out.
Yeah,
Did I miss anything? Anything you want to add to it?
no, like I said, there's a huge regulation. There are a lot of things inside it. We just covered the basic fundamental that one has to look into, without going into nitty gritty of all the regulations. We are still waiting for a lot of clarifications from IRS and other people, other agencies. So once we get more, but if you have formed a company right now, go ahead and file the state beneficial ownership report. If you're already in existence as of January 1st, 2024, you still have some time, so you can wait for more clarifications and more things to come in the future.
And I'm gonna wrap it up with this as a reminder. So who does not need to file? If you're a sole prop, you don't have to worry about it. If your husband and wife business working together, don't have to worry about it. If you have an LLC, you got to file. Now, Sanjeev ji, clarify this. Now, LLCs by default are disregarded entities, but you can treat them as sole prop, you can treat them as partnership, you can treat them as S corp. you can treat them as C Corp. So question comes, let's say if you have an LLC and you treat it as a sole prop, do you need to file the report?
Yes. So because LLC is again is organized at the Secretary of State level, so it is disregarded entity for the tax purposes. But in the eyes of regulation, in the eyes of law, you are still an entity. So
Okay. And I purposely asked this question because this particular act actually is not part of IRS code. It's a
right,
separate code. So you got to
right,
understand there's a difference between
yes,
IRS and these other regulations,
yes.
So
Next
that way,
question.
even though
Same
yeah, sorry,
thing
go ahead.
with the F bar. F bar is the same thing.
Correct.
When 114 form is not coming from the IRS code. It's regulated by the Bank Secrecy Act. So it's all about that.
Yeah, and I, so if you're just thinking, oh, Deepak said partnerships don't have to file, and your LLC is a partnership, guess what? That's not what we're talking about here. So just wanted to clarify that so we're not miscommunicating. If you have an LLC at one point you register it or somebody else registered for you, you're required to file this report. Now, if you never registered with the state, and you, like Sanjeev ji said rightly earlier, you're operating under your social, that's okay, then you don't have to worry about that. Or if your two partners got together, that's a whole different story. We don't want to make this video about that. There are a lot of issues with that, but we'll talk about that some other day. But for now, let's stay focused. If you have an LLC, S corp, C corp, whether you're located in the US, outside of US, doesn't matter. You got to file this report. Okay. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for your time. I hope this video was helpful. And I request you to join our next webinar. That will be happening pretty soon. You can just check it out on sanjeevcpa.com or taxcodeadvisors.com. You can go to our live seminars. Like I said, we have one coming up in February. That's the next one. It's in Milpitas, California. So please come to that one. And then we will have plenty of other events throughout the year where you can come and get to meet with us in person. Sanjeev ji, I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much. It's
Thank you.
tax time. We are ready to accept you. We are taking new clients. We have a big staff. We have almost 30 people working in our offices. We're here. And those of you guys who are watching this video for the first time, I say it many, many times. One of the key advantage of doing business with us is we do not outsource your work to foreign countries like many other tax firms. And that's a big deal. If you don't trust us, ask somebody else, before you give out your social security and your driving license and your financial details to people you don't even know, people you never will even see. You have no idea. There's no accountability, and now, if you're okay with that, then I'm okay with that too. If you're all right with it, if you're okay with that, I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying that if you really, if you care about your finances, you care about security, you want to get quality work done. I mean, I'll give you Sanjeev. Me and Sanjeev been working together for 20 years, and before starting a CPA practice, Sanjeev was a CA in India. Can you imagine how much knowledge he brings from Indian side, and then he has this experience in the US, and we train. Sanjeev trains every week. I train myself every week. We have a staff. We train our staff every week. 4 to 5. Just here, do the math. Imagine you have a staff of 30 people and you train them 4 to 5 hours a week at the bare minimum. And then you got to buy lunch as well, I guess, if you're training, right? How much would that cost? What would that payroll look like? But we do this because we want to make sure that you get the quality work done. Those tax returns are your representation to everyone in the world. That tax return goes to IRS. That tax return you probably show in immigration. That tax return you show to your lenders, to your creditors, to schools, colleges, universities. When you're starting out a business, you go to SBA, you show them the tax return. I mean, I can go on and make another 30-minute video on that, but people take it lightly. Please don't. It's a very important document. Don't take it lightly. Don't depend on people you don't know. Work with somebody that you can trust, somebody you can depend on, who've been doing it for a while, somebody reliable, somebody knowledgeable. That's all I can suggest. So once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you.